Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 20 of Visions of Tomorrow, the review series for Gran Turismo's selection of Vision GT concept cars, or VGTs. And in this particular pick we're featuring one of the much earlier VGTs, one of the earliest ones that we received on GT6, and to be honest, one of the VGTs which I've never really liked that much. I like Mitsubishis in general, but this car to me just always looked a bit weird, and it seemed to be a bit confused as to what it wanted to be. It has the look of a heavily modified, chopped, wide-bodied and track-focused version of some kind of weird hybrid SUV with an 8-speed gearbox and just a strange overall appearance. It's not necessarily a bad-looking car, it's certainly unique from some angles, but it just doesn't seem to really know what it wants to be. It shares a similar kind of chunkiness and size to the Land Rover Evoque, but it has performance and specs which make it seem like it's trying to be more of a sports car. Now, it does definitely have some good points. The handling, for instance. Now, compare this car to what is arguably its main rival within the VGT class, the Subaru. How does it compare to that vehicle, and also by extension to the others, and of course also to non-VGTs in general? Well, against the Subaru, it's interesting because they both trump each other in different ways. The Subaru is far faster in a straight line. This car, though, I would say actually has better handling than the Subaru. It's a little bit looser, a little bit more forgiving, and perhaps a little bit more beginner-friendly as well. And although this is a chunky car, it's not quite as long in comparison to the rest of its body as the Subaru, which has a very nose-heavy design. Off-road, they're both very good. This car is, again, possibly slightly better in that it feels more nimble and more compact, despite being a pretty heavy car. 1,350 kilos is quite a lot. Now, it's powered by a 3-litre turbo engine, produces 528 horsepower, which isn't bad, but it's not particularly amazing either. That's a similar kind of power to some of the lower VGTs, like the Mercedes original in its stock form and the BMW, and it puts out a pretty impressive 786 foot-pounds of torque at only 1,000 RPM. It weighs 1,350 kilos though, so it's not particularly light, and the horsepower per tonne isn't that great either, 391, due to the fact that it doesn't have a massive amount of power and it is quite heavy. The PP is, I would say, far too high for this car's own good. 617 PP is just too much. It's just not fast enough to be competitive at that level. Now, there is a caveat on that, and that is, it depends on the circumstance. As a rally vehicle, it's very good, and in rallying, PP doesn't necessarily have as much relevance. You tend to build vehicles just to be good, rather than to a PP ceiling, as it were. If you are intending to have a PP level on your rally car that has to stick to a certain amount, say 600, then it is quite a competitive vehicle for that. But on the road, it's just not fast enough. Now, despite the fact that it has an 8-speed gearbox to work with, the top speed isn't that great either. It's around the same as you'd expect from the Nissan VGT car. So not slow, but nowhere near as fast as the Subaru. Around 40 miles per hour off the pace, in fact. The acceleration is okay, pretty good off the line, but uninspiring overall. And the visuals are at least unique. It, unfortunately, like many of the other VGTs, does not have a fully detailed interior, and it can, notably, be repainted. Overall, for 1 million credits, which is what this car and most of the other VGTs cost, is it worth the price? That's the question. Well, I would say that with this car, as with some others in this series, such as the Infiniti, for me personally, it depends on personal preference. If you like this car, if you're a Mitsubishi fan, if you want something that's unique, then it's an interesting car. It has an interesting look, an interesting way of delivering its performance, interesting specs. But If you're looking purely for a performance machine, especially with regard to racing, then not so much, because it's just not competitive enough, it's not powerful enough, and that's a shame, because if we were allowed to upgrade this, not just tune it, but actually upgrade the power, it could potentially be a much better vehicle, because you can feel when you drive the car the potential that it has. It certainly is a fast car, just not fast enough. So if we were able to upgrade it to say 700 or 800 horsepower, maybe even more, then it could be really good. But at the level that it sits at, it just doesn't have the punch to back up the crazy looks. So if you're looking for a car, as I said, that's different, something which will be an interesting addition to your collection, or something that feels different to drive, potentially an oddball rally car even, then check it out. But for 1,000,000 credits, the simple fact is there are just other vehicles, including other VGTs, which just are simply better competition machines. So, that's it overall for this particular episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.